What is up, guys? We are back here live in Master Duel Fusion slash Synchro Festival deck profile for you guys. And one of the two decks that I am going to cover would be Melodious. Last year, Melodious did its peak performance in the Fusion slash Synchro event, and no one has legit expected Melodious to become a thing. And once again, people are sleeping on Melodious because in terms of one of the most fusion decks in general there is for the event, I already know for that fact that most people be saying, how do you even play this deck? Knowing that without the links or whatever for this event, actually, it's still possible. And I felt like it was literally one of the most disrespectful decks there is because, like, obviously there are better fusion decks out there, in which cases, Branded, Draco Tail, or even Lunar Lights. Don't get me wrong, I love Lunar Lights, but I figured, nah, I can't just be on the unpredictable side all the time. And what better way of a fusion deck of choice would be Melodious. Melodious happens to be a series of light fairies, to be specific, and they, of course, are capable of swarming, fusion summoning, or even controlling the game if the pilot knows what he or she is doing properly with this deck. So, deck profile for you guys in terms of Melodious. 3, Refrain. Upon no more special, she lets you add one Melodious monster from deck to hand that isn't Refrain, so she's Stratos. And then, if a Melodious fusion monster is special summoned to your field while this card is extra deck face up outside of the damage step, you can place this card in your pendulum scale. And once scaled, as a scale 1, you can target one Melodious fusion monster you control, send one Melodious monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, the targeted monster gains attack equal to the level of that monster sent to the graveyard times 200 until the end of this turn. And that scale effect is a hard one to turn. 2, Couplet. Upon being added to your hand, except drawing it for your normal draw, you can reveal this special 1 level 4 or lower Melodious monster from your hand or graveyard. If a Melodious fusion monster is special summoned to your field while this card is face up in your extra deck, outside of the damage step, place it in scale, just like Refrain. And once scaled, you cannot pendulum summon except lights. I mean, let's be real, all of it are lights in terms of main deck monsters, so no issue there. This effect cannot be negated. And then, if you do not control any face-up monsters other than Melodious monsters, you can add one Melodious spell trap from your deck to your hand. Generally, the idea is, obviously, the only Melodious spell slash trap being Concerto. We'll get to that in a bit. For the actual Melodious, 1 score. Score is basically honest, but the difference is it has to be a Melodious monster battling an opponent's monster, and instead of gaining that much attack, whatever monster that your opponent has in terms of battling a Melodious monster, that opponent's monster's stats become 0 until the end of this turn. 2, Sonata. If you control a Melodious monster, copies of this card included, you can free special this. While this special summon card is on the field, all fairies gain 500 stats. 2, Aria, along with 1 Elegy, the super old classic lockout strats. And when it comes to special summoned Melodious in terms of Aria and Elegy, Melodious monsters you control cannot be targeted or killed by battle. While Elegy here, special summon Melodious monsters you control cannot be killed by card effects. if this card was special summon, all fairies you control gain 300 attack. So if you get this lockout going, unless they have real answers that are non-targeting, they just outright lose from the get-go. One cannon, she's only meant for free summoning, or in most cases, she's most likely for free material. Also, when it comes to cannon, in any position where if you have any defensive Melodious in terms of late game setup, and if you really want them girls to attack, cannon has the ability to, you can target one Melodious monster you control, self included, changes battle position. So that way, if for whatever the reason, if they turn one of your face-up Melodious into defense, you can have cannon turn it right back to attack, and it's never an issue there. Serenade, just one of it. This card can be treated as two tributes of a tribute summon of a fairy, most cases being Mozarta and or Shelpina. After this card is special summon, you can normal summon one Melodious monster in addition to your normal summon set. So she is the double summon of Melodious once Serenade is special summon. Soprano, just one of it because her recursion effect, well, despite the fact that the recursion is a once per turn, the fusion summoning all from Soprano's effect, however, it is not a hard once per turn. So one Sonata because, you know, recursion, and it helps you get your offensive plays going in terms of Melodious fusions. And then speaking of which, about how to get your fusions going, one Tam Tam, because the polymerization search and or recur is not once a turn, and the only time you do this is if she is special summoned while you control a Melodious monster. So it cannot be just Tam Tam on her own if you want to get your hands on polymerization. So, and the other effect is not once a turn, which is if she's sent to the graveyard just because of fusion summon, you can target one Melodious monster you control, it loses 500 attack, and if it does, burn your opponent 500 damage. Two solos. If your opponent controls a monster and you control nothing, you can special this from your hand. So it's Cyber Dragon of Melodious. And then when this card gets killed by battle sent to the graveyard, you can special one Melodious monster from your deck except solo. So she's basically like Shining Angel, the Melodious version of sorts. And then Shelpina and Mozarta, the big girl Melodious. When it comes to Mozarta and Shelpina, the turn you use those effects, you are locked into certain situations except, lights in general. So in most cases, the lockout side effect for Shelpina is you cannot activate non-light monsters during the turn you trigger her effect. The case is, solve once a turn, you can target one light fairy in your graveyard, add it to your hand. I mean, once again, let's be real, all lights from the main deck, so restriction shouldn't matter at the slightest. And then, for Mozarta, the turn you use Mozarta's effect, you cannot special other monsters except lights. Once again, restriction shouldn't matter because we're actually playing the archetype of Melodious. The case is, once per turn, you can special one light fairy monster from your hand. No, really, that's pretty much it. And then more indirect Melodious cards. First movement solo, just one because its activation is a once per turn. If you control no monsters, special 1 level 4 lower Melodious from your hand or deck. And the turn you use this, you cannot special except Melodious monsters. 3 Ostinato, not once a turn, Branded Fusion, the Melodious version, basic. And if for whatever the reason, the materials for the Melodious are still in the graveyard, kill that fusion monster during the end phase, and this lets you reborn the materials in terms of Melodious. Melodious Concerto, fusion summoning shtick, but the twist is you can also use your pendulum scales as well. If a Melodious fusion monsters, more than one, is sent to your graveyard while this card is in your graveyard, even during the damage step, you can place this card on the bottom of your deck, and if you do, draw one. And then the secret spice in terms of how to deal with dragon matchups that can't be targeted or destroyed by any means, Kayori Getsu. Kayori Getsu is a last minute addition to this because most of my games in general, if not all, tends to be dragon matches to be specific. And Kayori Getsu can come up clutch if the dragon matchups are getting too tough for you. Also, love the card art of the 4 Arc V girls in the artwork of Kayori Getsu. As an equip spell, each effect once per turn. Special summon 1 level 4 or lower fairy, being Melodious, spellcaster, wing beast, or beast warrior monster from your hand, and if you do, hook it up to this, then you can, optional, return all dragons everywhere on the field to the hand. Non-targeting, non-destroying, by the way. So, Draco Tail, Blue Eyes, this one's on y'all. So, during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard just because it was sent there from the spell trap zone this turn, while face up, you can add 1 polymerization spell, fusion spell, or fusion parasite from your deck to your hand. And then the rest, non-engine, I suppose. Honest, Life Fairy, shouldn't need to say much. Feather Duster, polymerization because, you know, it's Melodious for you. 2 Night Beams. Night Beams performed way too well in terms of sniping set cards. And unless if they don't have real answers, hitting counter traps in terms of unable to respond off her Night Beam is huge. Talent Thrust. The limited Super Poly. Super Poly came up once. Like, I literally kid you not, I believe the Super Poly summons, it was Secretarion because, you know, Draco Tail matchup. 2 Forbidden Chalice, 2 Silent Graveyard for the sake of Draco Tail, Blizzard, 2 Skill Prisoner, and 3 Infinite Impermanence. And as an old card about Skill Prisoner, unfortunately it hasn't seen action, but you know, at the same time, it's where if for whatever the reason you don't have any offenses going, Skill Prisoner can clutch up for you. And then extra deck. Mud to the Egg at the Swamp. Garura. Starving Venom. Dragostapelia. I legit forgot to put in Predaplan Trivia Overtum as well because, you know, if Trivia Overtum was in the list, it would have taken 3 darks and 4 witch, by the way. If I would have expected to come across too many dark decks in general, Trivia Overtum would have been a better fit. However, because he takes 3 darks, Trivia Overtum is not opted to be in an extra deck. So, Mysterion and Secretarion, that's all of my Super Poly targets. For the Melodious fusions, Flowering Etoile, just one, because, again, all of your recursion comes from Chopina. Same goes for Soprano as well. So, Flowering Etoile, Boccia, just one, not two or three. Bloom Prima, Bloom Diva, all one-ups. For Flowering Etoile, as a quick effect, you can banish until the end phase any number of Melodious monsters you control. Then you can return up to that many face-up cards your opponent controls back to the hand. Non-targeting, by the way. And that effect is a once a turn. And if, for whatever the reason, this face-up fusion summon card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, going back to the extra deck does not count. You can special one Melodious monster from your deck or extra deck that isn't Flowering Etoile. Boccia, if she sticks the landing, you're literally winning. While you control this fusion summon card, the activated effects of your Melodious fusion monsters cannot be negated. So basically, don't ever try to stop me in terms of Melodious fusions. And then each of the following effects once per turn. If she's specialed, she lets you E-Telly one Melodious, and then if she's sent to the graveyard, you can target one Melodious monster in your graveyard that isn't Boccia herself, reborn it in defense. Bloom Prima card hasn't come up ever, but at the same time, it's where another tactic I've always done is honest and score together. That's pretty much game over versus big monsters. So Bloom Prima states gains 300 attack for each material used for its fusion summon. She is a built-in Cyber Twin Dragon, and if this fusion summon card is sent to the graveyard, she lets you target one Melodious monster in your graveyard, self included, add it to your hand. Most cases, extra deck for fusions. Bloom Diva cannot be killed by battle or card effects, and no battle damage from attacks involving Bloom Diva herself. If she battles a special summon monster, after damage calc, you can burn your opponent equal to the difference between the original attack of that opponent's monster and this card. And if you do, kill that opponent's monster. Way past crucial. And of course, Schuberta 3 copies. Because if anyone remembers Schuberta, she's one of the OGs of Melodious fusions. She is literally Magical Musket, Dancing Needle before Magical Musket, Dancing Needle ever exists. The case is, once while face up on the field, as a quick effect, you can target up to 3 cards in any graveyards, banish them, and if you do, this card gains 200 attack for each. So to circumvent this in terms of once while face up, either A, have multiple copies of Schuberta so you can reuse her effects, or B, Flowering Etoile in terms of banishing the Schubertas, reset her back to the field, so that way you are able to reset Schuberta's effect. And this has been James Polk with the unique convoluted build of Melodious. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and hit that notification bell to keep yourself constantly updated. And I shall catch you guys in the other deck profile for Synchros.